Hey Sub-Furies, the Red Death and the Alpha Night Fury.
We come to it at last. The great battle of our time.
Now we've already seen Toothless and the Red Death go head to head, but I want to be clear. This is not that battle. The Red Death in that battle was weary, old, suffering from arthritis, while Toothless was young and inexperienced, foolish perhaps. I was young and experienced and foolish once. Kinda still am. This battle is between two titans, the Red Death at the height of her power and prowess, and an Alpha Night Fury with all of their powers.
But who won the last tournament, Mr. Tim?
That's a great question, Mr. Jewelry Hogging runs in the family. Between the Typhoomerang and the Timberjack.
Click the link up in the corner of the video to go watch that battle.
With a narrow margin and 58.1% of the vote, the battle went to the Typhoomerang. But let's set the scene for our next battle. The Red Death dwells in volcanic environments, like we saw in the first movie, while I believe the Night Furies tend to reside in coastal cave areas. Now no doubt this volcanic island of the Red Deaths will have a number of magma tunnels that would make for quite nice homes for the Night Fury. But these new neighbours wouldn't get along, and it wouldn't take long for the Death to smell out the new Alpha Night Fury scent, or to happen to chance across it with its dragon minions, and want it off its island. However, with a size of 120 meters,
Or 400 feet for you heathens.
and a stealth of only 2, we know that it can't exactly rely on catching the Night Fury by surprise. Now we know that both dragons are extraordinarily intelligent, so the Red Death would wait in its volcanic environment for the Night Fury to come to it, where it knows that it is strongest, guarding its island vigilantly. It also has a honing signal that it can use to control dragons around it to an extent, like we saw in the first movie, and it would undoubtedly use that to try and draw out this Alpha Night Fury to come fight it. But Night Furies are also intelligent, and with a stealth of 18, literally 9 times that of the Red Death, the Night Fury would wait until the night time for it to strike, where it knows that it is strongest. After all, it can blend in with the sky, with the clouds.
But the ultimate prize is the dragon no one's ever seen. We call it the Night Fury! Get down!
So night falls on the volcanic island of the Red Death. I suspect 2 things here. Number 1, the Red Death would have no way of pinpointing where the Night Fury was going to attack from, because it's camouflaging him with the dark at all times, while the Night Fury would always know where the Red Death was because of its immense size, no matter how much light it had. Undoubtedly, the Alpha Night Fury would come in for a deadly dive bomb first strike, just like we saw in the first movie. But as an Alpha Night Fury, this blow would be even more powerful, plenty enough to knock the Red Death down, incapacitate it even, and give it plenty of time to fly away back into the clouds and the dark. Because of this, I award the Alpha Night Fury the advantage of a surprise attack. But that would not keep the Red Death down for long. With an armor rating of 30, the Red Death can withstand the heat and force of lava when it's sitting in it. The Alpha Night Fury shot probably wouldn't even bruise its coral thick tested armor. Now the movie tried to make it out that after that first deadly strike, the Red Death got up in the air and started flying to chase Hiccup and Toothless. But in that battle, it was arrogant and angry and clearly not thinking straight, and wouldn't spread its wings until that is a last option. Now the Night Fury might have gotten that deadly first strike, but we saw in the first movie how quickly the Red Death could use its stunning sense of smell to pick out exactly where Hiccup and Astrid were, biting at it immediately when they were hundreds of meters away.
Alright, bud, we gotta get out of here. Now!
The Night Fury would circle around for another blow, but the Red Death would eventually pick up on its pattern, eventually start predicting where it's about to attack from. On top of that, we know that an Alpha Night Fury's dive bomb creates a whistling sound as it's flying through the air, coming in for a full force attack.
Night Fury! Get down!
The Red Death would soon figure that out, use it, and react accordingly. Now, while the Red Death has only a speed of 7 in the first movie, when it was younger, it would have been far faster and far more agile because it was smaller and more athletic. It would have been able to attack far faster than we've ever seen. I'd put its speed at maybe 12, not nearly as fast as a Night Fury, but definitely a lot faster than we saw in the first movie. The Night Fury would come around for another dive bomb attack, but the Red Death would sense it coming and lash out with ferocity. The Red Death has an attack score of 28 in the first movie, but in her prime it would have been even higher, closer to maybe the 50 of that of the Bewilderbeast that we see in the second movie. Even if the Alpha Night Fury managed to avoid this blow, which I'm sure it probably would be able to do because it's naturally agile and extremely good flyer, its entire course would be thrown off for a moment. It may even crash into the ground, disoriented. Temporarily at least, this would give the Red Death the upper hand. With its immense size and strength and its improved speed and agility, the Red Death would attempt to stomp, bite, or crush the Alpha Night Fury. Now, it's common knowledge that an Alpha Night Fury would be far more agile and could dodge and avoid its strikes, but the Red Death has a jaw strength of 22, although honestly I think it's much higher than that. It would only take one well-aimed blow to kill the Alpha Night Fury when it's trapped on the ground. Because of this, I award the Red Death the advantage in ground combat. While this battle is going on the ground, the Red Death's coral tough armor hide would protect it from any bite, claw, or scratch, or blast that the Night Fury could set off at it. We also see that the Red Death's body as a whole is pretty worn in the first movie. It used to have a horn at the front of its face, but that was eventually turned into a stub. At the height of its power, the Red Death might be covered in spikes that the Alpha Night Fury would have to avoid. Because of this, I award the Red Death the advantage in melee combat. At a complete disadvantage, the Alpha Night Fury would soon learn that it needs to get its distance from the Red Death if it's going to survive. Now, with a huge attack bonus of 28 over the Night Fury, the Death's primary weapon seems to be its teeth and claws and tail. In the final battle of the first film, we see that the Red Death only uses its firepower as a secondary weapon to burn the boats before the Vikings could get to them, to try and find Hickson in the clouds, and because it realized that it wasn't able to quite reach Toothless in the air, so it tried to fire blast it, but then Toothless turned around and boom. But if the Alpha Night Fury is trying to keep its distance from the Red Death, both dragons would begin to use their firepower more. So what about their firepower? Well, there are two interesting factors to consider. Firstly, when we met the Red Death in the first movie, it was designed to have a stuffy, coffee, dusty look to its torrents of flame, like it hadn't used this ability in a long time. Which would make sense, it didn't really need to. From what we can tell, it hadn't really left its volcano in perhaps dozens, if not hundreds of years. But it does also mean that when its firepower is noted as 27, that's when it's underpowered. At the height of its power, my reckoning is that it would have been closer to that of the Bewilderbeast, somewhere near 60. But the second thing we need to consider is that we also know that the Alpha Night Fury's blasts are upgraded when it goes into Alpha mode. They can let off shocking blow after shocking blow, just like we saw with Toothless and the Bewilderbeast in the second movie. And we also know that an Alpha Night Fury's shot limit becomes almost limitless when it's in Alpha mode, as we discussed in my whether or not Toothless is a Titan Wing theory. Now, the Alpha Night Fury can let off these single big blasts, but we've already discussed that they probably wouldn't do much damage to the Red Death with its armor rating so high. So its only real advantage is its pinpoint accuracy. If it could hit the Red Death in one of its more vulnerable spots, perhaps an eye, then it could distract or truly hurt the Red Death. As an Alpha, I'd say that's pretty likely. But before I award the advantage of firepower to either the Red Death or the Alpha Night Fury, there are a couple more things that we need to consider. While the Night Fury may have the ability to land pinpoint accurate shots, when we see him use this ability in the TV series and the movie, Toothless is nearly always within a short range of his target, say 10 to 20 meters.
Or 65 feet for you heathens.
And as we discussed before, for the Alpha Night Fury to get that close to the Red Death, it would immediately put itself in danger of being swatted out of the sky. On top of that, we know that the Red Death seems to be able to loose torrents of flame for long periods of time. In the first movie, we can see a point where it just lets off a jet of flame for like 8 seconds straight. With that and its ability to suck dragons back into its mouth, we know that it has powerful lungs. At a younger age, it would have been even more powerful. It could have sustained that sort of flame for maybe 2 or 3 times the length. The Red Death could create a sky full of whips of flame that would be incredibly difficult to avoid, even with its skill in flying. It would be like the movie, but even more deadly. And these flames can go hundreds of meters in a second. Now, an Alpha Night Fury would have these spine flaps that we see Toothless develop in the second movie, which allow it to have sharper turns and possibly fly a little faster, so that may make it easier to avoid these torrents of flame, but it's really hard to say. Now, I understand this may be a controversial call if we're choosing between an Alpha Night Fury and the Red Death in her prime, but I'm going to give the advantage of firepower to the Red Death. I just don't see the Alpha Night Fury being able to inflict that much damage on the basis of firepower alone, while the Red Death's firepower is definitely a danger even to an Alpha Night Fury. So it'll take something more like strategy, planning, aerial combat and stamina, long-ranged attacks to try and take down the Red Death. All hail Mishka. We will be finishing this battle tomorrow. It's only half finished, but so far, the Red Death has taken out firepower, ground combat, and close combat, while the Night Fury only has a surprise attack. Wait out for part 2 tomorrow night. I'm only splitting this up because I've kind of had a bit of a crap week and I don't have time to edit all of this for tomorrow's upload. I'm really sorry. So there will be 3 videos this week, don't worry, I'm not gonna just scant out on you. A big thank you to my friend Ayakne the animator for designing the intro to all of our Dragon Tournament stuff. She's an incredible animator. There is a link to her channel and to her commissions if you want anything done down in the description below. Please go check her out. She's really, really cool and super nice and easy to get along with. But there are 2 more things that I want you to do. Number 1, go subscribe to my second channel, TwotheFuture. There is a link to that down in the first comment below. There has been another Rise of Berk episode as I play Rise of Berk uploaded, as well as vlogs if you're interested in watching my vlogs. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. And secondly, I would like you to answer my question. What's your favorite subject at school and why? Let me know down in the comments below. In the meantime, I'd love for you to come follow me on Twitter, Wattpad, Facebook, email me stuff you've made at the address and links in the description below. Stay nerdy, Sub-Furies, and I'll see you tomorrow.